Hi folks, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we're going to put together a really basic sanding board that I use in my wood and plastic scratch building, kit building, and even for removing flash on plaster models. Now here's a board I've been using for a few years now. I think it's time for a new board, or two. When working with small models, getting things squared up is just so important. I've used commercial and homemade sanding blocks, and the issue I've had with almost all of these tools is trouble getting a dead flat sandpaper surface. That's why I put these boards together. For the new board, I'll use these 10" by 24" Rubbermaid laminate shelves. I picked these up at Home Depot for right around $6. Also, of course, the sandpaper. The full-size sheets are a great fit for these boards, giving you a nice, long, flat sanding surface. These 3M sheets have what they call their no-slip grip on the back of the paper. And this backing paper feels a little waxy to the touch and works out very well when we go to apply the sheets to our board. I could have used plain MDF board here, but I like these shelves as they're already sealed by the laminate and less prone to warping due to humidity. And these boards are already a great size for this project. No cutting needed. Here's that 150 grit paper that's been used for years on our old board. If you keep the sandpaper clear of clogs, it really is amazing how long this paper will last on a flat board. And here's another look at the 3M no-slip grip backing. This paper really will work well with our adhesive, and it's another 3M product, 3M Super 77 adhesive. The Super 77 acts like regular contact cement but in aerosol form. One very strong suggestion I have for you, don't apply it indoors if you can avoid it. Aside from the odor, the overspray and airborne adhesive lands on everything. That's actually why I didn't film myself spraying the Super 77. I didn't want it on my camera. Take it outside to spray if at all possible. Get a good, even coating of the Super 77 on the paper, making sure to get complete coverage, and then let it dry for about 10 minutes. Applying the paper to the board is easy. Just line it up and press. Here I used a scrap of MDF to press down on the sheet and set the adhesive. To get this paper as flat as possible, I then used a rolling pin to iron out any kinks and further set the adhesive. And here's our second sheet with the Super 77 applied. To make the full length of the board one continuous sanding surface, butt the edge of this sheet up against the edge of the first sheet. This second sheet had lots of ridges in it, almost looks like corrugated fluting here. I'm guessing it was an outside sheet in the pack and just absorbed a bit of extra humidity, but I think the Super 77 can compensate for this and give us a flat application. Again, we're using a scrap of MDF to press down and set the paper in place. The MDF flattened most of the sheet, but I think we'll need to use that rolling pin with a bit more pressure to get it properly flat. We've just got this one pesky little area to go, and a little extra pressure on the rolling pin, and we're all done. We've now got a flat sanding board. And finally, my faithful Dymo label maker. Though not really necessary, who doesn't like a label maker? Also, I thought I'd make a few more boards using some of the paper I already had on hand. Another pair of shelves from Home Depot, and I now have a good range of reliable sanding boards with a variety of grits. I used to keep the old board tucked in between shelves in my workshop so they don't take up much space. And as you've seen, they're quick and easy to make, and they'll last for years. Having a completely flat sanding surface always on hand is more useful than you might think. As long as I have the new sanding boards and 3M adhesive here, I thought I'd build a little project that would make use of both of them, a small diorama. We'll start by cutting some XPS foam on my favorite tool, the Proxxon hot wire cutter. Next, we'll apply a coat of the 3M Super 77 to one side of a piece of foam and add it to the diorama base. Let's then add one more piece of foam to give our little scene a valley. Well, it will be a valley in a few minutes. This is actually the first time I've used Super 77 on XPS foam. I wanted to see how well it would hold and how well it would cut when going through the Proxxon hot wire cutter. It does attach foam together beautifully and the bond does seem strong. I really like that there's no curing time involved. Just spray on one side of the foam, wait 10 minutes and then attach. That's it. As you can see, this diorama base is nowhere near square. I did this so I'd use the Proxon on all 4 sides to test out how well the Super 77 works with the Proxon. I was incredibly pleased at how well this adhesive went through the hot wire. Remarkably clean. I think I can safely say this 3M Super 77 is my favorite new adhesive. I initially made this little test block using 2 chunks of foam to see how well the adhesive would cut and, as important, how strong it would be on small pieces. I cut some thin slices and here you can see the dark line of adhesive between the foam blocks. I have to admit, I was really surprised at how well this adhesive bonds XPS foam together. Also worth noting, again, is just how thin and uniform that dark adhesive line is. The only real downside I see for this adhesive is that it's a bit messy to work with, but that's a small price to pay for results like these. Okay, see, now I can't help myself. Now I'm just having fun slicing foam on my Proxon cutter, playing with this new Super 77 adhesive. Okay, maybe I should get out more, but this is fun. It wiggles. Come on, it's wiggling. Okay, moving past the wiggly XPS, I thought I'd do a little rock carving in the foam. The XPS is versatile material, and though I haven't carved in foam in a few years, it really is a forgiving material to work with. Shown here are the knives I regularly use. The Alpha utility knife, the Excel hobby knife, which is what I use in place of an X-Acto knife, and my favorite for foam carving, regular single edge blades. Also shown as a cut-resistant glove I like to wear when working with single edge blades. It's not a 100% policy against hand cutting, but I can say these gloves have saved me from more than one cut over the years. They're fairly inexpensive and they're not uncomfortable to wear. To begin with, I use a new single edge blade and drag it along the surface of the foam, increasing the pressure until it starts to bite into the foam surface. Once I have a good surface texture, I dive in a bit deeper, cutting and working the foam until I get a look that I like. It's a bit of trial and error, but this is the part of the hobby I really enjoy, as you get to be as creative as you want. Once I have my basic rock surface, I get in there and create some larger individual rocks. Now in retrospect, I probably went a little too symmetrical here, but as this is the first time in a while for me on foam rocks, I'll give myself a bit of a pass. I think these will be fine once we add some color and some other ground cover to balance out this rock work. A few more touches with the Excel knife and I think we're good. I could definitely use more carving practice, but that's true for most aspects of any hobby. More practice and you get better. Just remember to have fun while you're working and you'll naturally tend to get better at it. Just from handling this piece during the rock carving, it did get a few nicks and dings. I could have run it again through the Proxon to freshen up the edges, but since I have some brand new sanding boards, why not use them? A trick to using these boards is to go slow and use light, even pressure. Another good tip to making the paper last and to getting good results is to regularly brush or vacuum the surface during use to prevent the paper from clogging up. I'm happy with the new boards, as they work well and they were quick and inexpensive to put together. To seal and protect the foam, we use a product featured in a previous video, Mod Podge Hard Coat. This product is similar to regular Mod Podge, but it provides more strength and it does a reasonably good job of creating a protective layer for your projects. In that previous video, I went with very light coats and used a mini paint roller to eliminate brush strokes. This time, I'm applying the hard coat heavier and using a foam brush. Even using a foam brush though, streaks are visible as the hard coat isn't self-leveling. Still, as long as your final brush strokes are all in the same direction, you should get a uniform looking application. Now we get to play with a bit of scenery, my favorite part. First up, I'm giving the top of the diorama base a coat of white craft paint. I probably should have used a white primer for a bit more tooth, but we'll make this work. For color, I'm just using a few coats of neutral gray craft paint thinned with water to act as a wash. Once this dries and I touch it up a bit, I then apply weathering powders and give it a spritz of alcohol to create another wash with these powders. I want to cover the base in natural soils all around the rocks, and for this I use regular Mod Podge matte medium as my glue, along with pre-sifted soils that I always keep on hand. Here's our scene after the base coat of soil is applied. Now I've also added a bit of Woodland Scenic's coarse and fine gray ballast to act as talus, to break up the look between the rocks and the soil. For a little greenery and ground cover, polyfiber backed as well as loose turf gets applied over some of the soil areas, again using Mod Podge matte medium. And now for a final application of the Mod Podge hard coat for our fascia. I want to mix some black craft paint with the hard coat this time. Now, I haven't done this before, so I'm guessing here on the paint to Mod Podge ratio. I just kept adding paint until it looked more black than gray. Just testing how this black hard coat will go on, and you can see just how thick this mixture is. Again, using a foam brush to apply. Coverage is good as I'd expect from Mod Podge, but I'm still not wild about the streaks this leaves. Actually, now I'm curious to see how it'll look once dry on our model. And here's the finished piece. The black Mod Podge hard coat came out far glossier than I expected. I'll leave it on the shelf for a while to see if it grows on me. I'm fairly happy with the scene itself and with the carved rock work, though I do need a bit more work on my razor technique. Still, happy to have my new sanding boards and to have learned that 3M Super 77 adhesive works incredibly well on XPS foam. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please help us grow the Raildig channel by liking and subscribing to our channel. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.